So, going live here. Live long and prosper. That's looking rather beautiful, Tempest. Good morning, dear Dharma friends. We lived through another night and woke up. The mystery of becoming somebody again upon awakening happened. You ever noticed how that happens? A long time ago, my teacher in Burma would ask me every day of the 6 days I was with him, did you wake up on an in-breath or an out-breath? Did you fall asleep on an in-breath or an out-breath? I've had the experience on 2 or 3 occasions when I've had big losses, like the death of my father or my mother or that kind of thing, that upon awakening, there's no anguish. And then as soon as I remember, as soon as that arises, then suddenly there's the anguish. It's as though we pull on our somebody suit. So I'm Robert Beatty. This is a broadcast from Portland, Oregon. And it's a broadcast of the Portland Insight Meditation Community, which you can find at portlandinsight.org. And we've been doing this every weekday since COVID, the first COVID shutdown. And we will continue after COVID passes on. Probably makes sense to remind us all to not get COVID fatigue and realize that it's still out there and it's really surging back. So to wear our masks and wash our hands and be careful. Unless you're young, in which case you can just go about your life how you wish and and create a lot of a mess. So I have a poem. This is by David Wagoner. It's called Lost. Stand still. The trees ahead and the bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here. And you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. No 2 trees are the same to raven. No 2 branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Stand still. Sit still. The trees ahead and the bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers. I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, Here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or bush does is lost on you, you are surely lost. Sit still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. A suggestion for this morning. I learned this from the Venerable, not the Venerable, from Goenkaji in India all those many years ago when I first started. That for this period of practice, you might make a vow, which is, I'm not going to move. Which would mean that your coffee would get cold, the itch would go unscratched, the tension level might go through the roof. And of course, we can move, it's just a choice, but it's an interesting choice. We practice in a long lineage from the time of the Buddha. I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. I take refuge in being awake, in being that which knows, in everything that is discovered, the truth of our lives. And I do it in the company of my friends. And the community of all life, of which I am part. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. We are invited to be alive. To be right here. I wonder how many people on how many mornings in the lifetime of humans on the earth have made their way to their meditation spot, sat down comfortably upright, and began by paying attention to the body. This body that sits here right now. Noticing where it makes contact with the floor or the cushion. Noticing that the body is utterly alive. And it breathes. Being intimate with each breath as it begins, as it rises to fullness and vanishes after descending. allowing there to be room in this awareness for all thoughts, moods, sounds, the entire richness of the body in all its different sensations, pleasant and unpleasant. Coming home, waking up, present. Present to the only moment that ever exists, which is now. Each breath has its beginning. Each thought has its beginning. Memories of the past, thoughts of the future, each have their beginning. They have their own natural ending, and sometimes they are instantaneously interrupted by awareness. By knowing, by that which knows. There is a quality in mindfulness of remembering to be here. Remembering to be awake. Remembering to approach the moment with love. Which means in a heart-mind attitude in which there is room for everything. We sit with the weight of a boulder or a tree, a mountain. Awareness is so light, so simply present. Awakening from the numerous trances of everyday life. Particularly from the song of the self, whose words include I, me, and mine. This self-experience that consists a lot of telling stories about what's happening, about what I'm doing, about what I believe, the story of our personal childhood and the ways we were wronged, or perhaps even stories of gratitude that are all filled with I, and me, and mine. Fortunately, they are only thoughts. And with mindfulness, one breath at a time, we set ourselves free from identification with the thoughts and emotions. We awaken countless times to this that knows what's happening, to the Buddha. And we go far beyond the notion of the Buddha as a man who walked the earth to that to which he awakened, which we do too. Breathing in and breathing out in full awareness. Honoring this apparent separateness, this self-process that is so capable of loving and being loved. On each in-breath, thinking a kind thought. If we're going to have thoughts, why not let them be kind? A kind thought for this that is you, one of a kind ever in the universe. On the out-breath, think of a loved one, someone you'd like to wish well today. Maybe Someone who you'd like to spend the entire day remembering. Be a fun practice, wouldn't it? Though probably crucial to be able to do that more for oneself for a whole day. Whatever vagaries of the human personality arise as you, could you love that all day? And so we'll end this morning with a couple of gongs. The first is the reminder. Wake up. Be here. The second is the invitation to allow the eyes to open, to notice how they open, and to see with the eyes of blessing, the eyes of gratitude. I'm going to forego any announcements this morning and invite you to share what's happening. Ask questions. Enjoy the sweet silence. I'm going to check my sound system and see if I've got, oh, that turned it off. All right, I should be able to hear now when someone speaks.
Good morning, Robert and Sonja. Can you hear me?
Hello, Emily.
Hello. Um, Thanks for this morning. I had a very still sit, which usually I don't. And I wanted to share an experience, which was when Budo's nails were clicking along.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I then I didn't observe, but mental proliferation happened from that
Mm-hmm.
sound. And then I reached a point where I was like, feeling things, and it was about a house that I didn't buy, and I was way off in another place. Woke up in that moment, and then with curiosity, traced it back to Budo's nails.
Uh-huh.
Like, right for that, and then I was quiet again, and I just had just a moment of awe for both the ability to trace that and the ability to wake up. So it was very, it was fun to observe, I guess, for myself. Um, and then the second thing is that thanks for reading that poem again, because I think you read it like a month ago. And that afternoon, I went chanterelle hunting for the first time, and I got separated from the people that I was with and got a little bit panicky. But then that poem, you were in my mind reading that poem, and I was like, I'm here. The forest knows where I am,
How
and
cool.
it was the perfect antidote to my potential anxiety. So thank you for that again, that reminder. But
I will tell Budo he did a good job this morning too. Thanks, Emily.
Robert, thank you.
I hear you had.
Thank you for the suggestion of not moving today,
Ah,
of heightened what I call discipline and focus. And I was curious how many teachers of yours have either suggested that or demanded that. And did Ruth ever bring do that?
every one of
Or
them. Every one of them.
and what do you personally see as the value of that mode of meditating?
Well,
It seems it's quite zen, my interpretation.
if we take a vow to not move, we lock ourselves in. And habits that we have that we don't know about will become visible, will become apparent to us. It's like a fast. It is a fast. If I say I'm only going to eat, I'm only going to have salad today or something. I'm going to do a water fast today. All day I'll be very aware of the cravings for food in a way that I wouldn't be if I didn't fast. And so if we fast from movement, then something like a small itch will come along. Like right now, there's an itch right here beside my eye, and it's very minor, but as I'm talking about it, it's subjectively getting more intense. If I have taken a vow, I am not going to scratch that itch until the gong rings. That itch could turn into something really big. It could turn into an irritation. It could turn into fantasies of rageful fantasies. It could do all kinds of things. And if I'm not conscious and I haven't taken my vow, I'll just take care of that little itch right there. Okay, there it is right there. That's gone. And now I don't have to bother with that. But now there's another one, of course. And I've experienced in my own practice, certainly, and in the practice of many others that I've had the privilege of being with, that there comes a point, particularly on retreat, where there's a lot of itches. And the impulse, and there's a lot of moving. But then at some point, there's this realization, I need to just not change anything. I need to suffer this. Or it could be boredom. Or it could be pain. And what happens is we go deeper and deeper and deeper into the mind and into its reactivity. Another wonderful one, and I recommend this only in places where there's no Zika virus and malaria, of which there are many, of course. But when a mosquito lands on your face or on your arm, don't shoo it off. Just be with it and watch what happens. It's a mosquito, and it turns into this giant thing, and then sometimes it will just switch into, there's a little tiny tickle and like a burn. It's a tiny experience on my arm, and I'm going to give generously to this mama mosquito that really just wants to make her babies. And then maybe I had one here right here one time, and I was really up close, right on the edge of my nose, and I watched as her belly got redder and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden, and there was lots of reactivity, and then all of a sudden she was gone, and it was over, and it became a memory. And as we do that, we can become less and less reactive, so that it's a mosquito, big deal. And of course, life presents us with lots of mosquito bites of all kinds. The irritation of this, the irritation of that, the clanking noise one's partner does when they cuts their food, or the snapping of the jaw that happens when they eat, or whatever it is. And we learn how to just be with life as it is, and to not always be intervening. And we live in the time and the culture of tolerate nothing. I had a trivial experience yesterday. I was with a friend, a trivial but useful, and we were having coffee together and a donut outdoors in the sun, but it was pretty cool. And I asked the fellow to make my coffee extra hot. And when he made the latte, and he was handing it to me, I said, "Is it really nice and hot?" Because often they don't quite get it. And I said, "Is it nice and hot?" He said, "Oh yes. It's an insulated cup, so you won't feel it." And so I thought, okay, well, I'll try. And I went outside. It was tepid. It was hardly hot at all. And then I had a fun conversation with my friend who's a meditator. What do I do? I could go back inside, and I've done that, and say, this isn't hot. And they can't reheat it. They have to start over. So we waste that coffee and that milk and the time. And so we had a useful conversation about, when do we accept it's good enough? It's not what I, quote, wanted, but it's good enough. Or when do we say, no, I want to have exactly what I ordered? And I've been with people who send meals back often. It's like, this isn't quite right. And there's a place for both. But as a meditator, we develop some facility to say, this is okay. And I can, and it's going to be over anyway. It's just a mosquito, or it's just a cup of coffee, or it's just this pain that I pushed my call button a while ago, and here's the tears come. There's some trauma still left over from my brain surgery time, all that time in the hospital, and but I push the button, and there's, I know they're going to give me some more pain medication, but it's not an emergency. It's just pain. And so we suffer less and less. And this, what I'm talking about here, is the first three noble truths: that there's suffering, there's a cause of suffering, and it's in the human mind wanting it. I won't accept this the way it is. And then there's the sweet freedom of nirvana, of the quenching of the craving. And so we work with that with something as simple as an itch, or a cool coffee, or so many things, because the mind of liking and disliking happens all day long. Now it's useful. Of course, right now I didn't drink my usual glass of water this morning, and I've got kind of dry mouth. Now, I'd like a glass of water, and what am I going to do? Well, I'll wait. It's not that big a deal. But we can be conscious of doing that, and it's just, all right. There's disliking of this situation, and I could suffer with that, or I could just realize, it's not a big deal. But the liking and disliking are essential because they do lead us to take care of ourselves. But having some choice on which ones we follow and which ones we don't is the purpose of the vow sittings. Thank you for the question.
The other part of the question was about Ruth Dennison, because I know that there's no one else I'll be able to ask this of, and her memory is going. No one else knows of this. So could you tell me how she instructed? Did she ever bring that rigor?
Yeah, sit still. Ruth did not hold back. Darling, you're always moving. Sit still. I don't want to see you move for an hour. Sit still. And then you'd move, and she'd say, no, don't move. She was very direct. She really knew she wasn't perfect. She sometimes missed the mark. But she really could see people's personalities and their self-indulgences really clearly sometimes, most of the time. We were driving somewhere one time and really hungry, and everything happened on her schedule. There was no negotiation of what there was one time she said, darling, too much democracy can ruin a meditation center. And anyway, we stopped and got some junk food, and I got some potato chips, and I was in the back seat stuffing them in my mouth. And all of a sudden she said, and there were several other people, she said in a loud voice, "Stop!" Are you observing the greed, darling? The desperation. And then we couldn't eat anything for half an hour. We had to stop. Right now I feel like I have a bug on me or something. And now I was very unconsciously trying to get rid of it. I can live with it. So what? One time Ruth was here, and there were maybe 60 people, 50 people, a lot. And we had brought lunch, and she was doing a classic Ruth thing, which was to sit and feel hunger, and where is the hunger, and who is hungry, and then opening the sandwich or the lunch, and then looking, and and it's one thing to do that for 5 minutes. It's another thing to do that for 45 minutes. And people were getting more and more antsy, and I was responsible for bringing her, so I felt sort of like, oh God, this is too much. And then we got it, and we were finally bringing the bite to our mouths, and I got to bite right here, and she said, "Stop!" Oh, and in the sharing that came afterwards, people were so angry. Because don't tell me what to do. I'm a free person. I can eat my food if I want, and yes, but if this was a practice of waking up. There was a fellow on one retreat at Cloud Mountain who I was doing this. I was doing the same with my little symbols that I had, really nice little symbols. And one morning he was gone, and so were my symbols. He left the retreat. And in meditation, when he left a very angry note about my controlling his eating. And when was it? I didn't know where they went. And then I was, I guess it was weeks later, I was at home in meditation, and I had a vision of him walking out the door with my symbols and throwing them off the porch. And the next time I was back at Cloud Mountain, I went to where my intuition said they were, and they were right there. It was really kind of cool. And then we had a conversation later, that fellow and I, and he talked about how his parents had controlled his eating, and that my controlling his eating really set him off, understandably. So that's about that kind of discipline. And there's also a place for the other, which is you disappeared. If you're sitting and the pain gets too much or the itching is too much, then to mindfully reach up and do the scratch. And then lower your hand and still stay continuous in practice. I had an interesting experience just then when it shifted back to myself in the... suddenly everyone was gone. And there was this sense of, oh, I know why this is. I had a meeting last night with a small group. and the meeting was ending. And before we had really said goodbye, I did again that silly thing. I pushed end and everybody was gone. That's what was happening just now. It's like, oh God, have I done it again? So, anyone else? Goodness, already 8:02.
Robert?
It's Tim. Hello, Tim.
I wonder if there's a difference, or it seems to me like there's two ways of sitting still, and one is not allowing yourself to move, suppressing, kind of like putting on a straitjacket, a voluntary straitjacket. I'm not going to move, by God, and I'm not going to, by God, move. And the other one is, I'm not sure how to phrase it, just not doing moving. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's the other one is just, one is an effort to not move, and the other one is just not making the effort to move.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that.
It seems to me like one of them is a strategy, a training strategy in which I won't move. I am going to follow the discipline of not moving. And the other is a more developed stance, in a way, when there's sufficient awareness to notice the intention to move, and then not indulging that intention. And for instance, if there were a pain happening, for there to be enough awareness to notice, oh, there's a pain, And oh, it's a rather strong pain. And here's the impulse to move. And this is not, then there's an evaluation. This is not a pain that is doing me harm. I don't have to move because my body's being damaged. And I can just stay here. But the
one has kind of to me, kind of a Taoist feeling to me, and the other one has kind of a Calvinist feeling.
Yeah, you could put it that way. I think of it just the strategies that were.
I don't mean to be judgy about it. I don't mean to be judgy about it, but just the flavor to me.
Well, there's a place for it's funny to use these terms. There's a place for the Calvinist perspective in Buddhist practice. There are places and times when it's really helpful to have a teacher. If we're a person who always moves, finding a teacher who will say, "You want to grow up? Stop moving all the time."
But this is exactly my experience, because I'm a person that always moves. I get an itch. I say, yeah, screw it, I'll scratch it now. Then I'll meditate some more, That's my default. And having you suggest making a vow not to move for the whole time, like, okay, well, it's a smart guy. I'll try this on. Why not? And wow, I get this good experience out of it. So I get to go past the nobody tells me what to do. I'm a badass from Wyoming stage,
right,
and into maybe a little better place. So thank you for that. This is kind of new for me.
Well, and tomorrow we'll do it for 2 hours. And then, the shit hits the fan. It gets pretty wild. To do that in a room of meditators, and to say, let's now sit the next hour, let's nobody move. And this is on a retreat where people have been sitting for an hour easily. Quiet. The room has gotten real quiet. And the mere mention of let's do a vow sitting, some people will become so rebellious. It's like, you can't tell me what to do. And all of a sudden, all those little itches and wriggles become so intense. And so there's room for all the strategies. What was his name? Achan Mahabua. Now, this is apocryphal to me, but I think it's true. With his young monks, the male monks, he would have them stand for 10 hours. Long periods of time, into excruciating pain. And then they would learn something from that. On the other end of the scale, Achan Buddhadasa, neither of whom did I meet, but he said that no need to develop that much concentration because you don't know what to do with it when you get it anyway. So, and he had people doing much more sweeping, literally sweeping the ground meditation and movement. And actually, there's a great book that's sort of about this, it was originally published by Jack Kornfield as Living Buddhist Masters. And now I think it's called, I forget, but Living Dharma, I think. And it's 10 or 12 teachers, all of whom I believe he practiced with, how they taught. And the differences were, there's a similarity that's identical at the root. But the different strategies they had and the way their different personalities of teaching manifested are really quite interesting. In fact, I might read that again. It's been a long time since I did. But really different.
Thank you. That helps. That's helpful.
There's another teaching story of Achan Cha, a student, in his case a monk, came to him and said, the other day I asked you this question and you said to do this. And I just overheard in that conversation that you told this other monk to do exactly the opposite. And Ajahn Chah said, You know, I've been walking this path for so long and worked with so many people that I see the path and it's just this straight path, and I see someone falling off to the left and I say, go right, go right. And someone falling off to the right and I say, go left. Because every person needs different guidance. And every person will need something different to bring them into balance. And this is, I guess, one of the reasons for having a teacher and being in relationship with a teacher, because then we can bring ourselves in our various ways we're falling off to the right and left, and they can help us wake up, because the way we are in our personality is the way we are, and we often can't see at all that we're being way too rigid and striving too hard, or we never put on the brakes at all. So, I don't feel like meditating this morning. I'm going to not bother. So, thanks.
Good morning, Robert. Good morning, Sangha.
Jessica.
Hi.
Hi.
Following up on guidance, I just wanted to check in because I wanted to let folks know you had advised or suggested when I was really struggling at the beginning of the week with a huge onset of doubt about taking kind of a half hour and just really being with it and turning towards that doubt and, kind of letting her rip and writing down what I was experiencing. And I just want to share back that was really, really helpful. It really is. And I'm so grateful. I feel like it's changed my relationship with doubt. And it doesn't mean that I always refer to Morrow as female, that she's gone, but I feel like I have a new relationship with her, and it's super, super helpful. So I just wanted to follow up for folks that were aware of that, and maybe that's useful for others too. So thank you.
Yeah. Did you last a whole half hour?
Michael might say I lasted a whole day, but yeah.
That was me sitting with her down.
It was interesting. But it was interesting because I could see where finally I went from, in a way, like really being in that trance, and I was doubting, I was wrong, and I was just, and then over that time I could see, doubt's out here, and I'm okay. And
Yay.
hitting me with a battering ham, but I'm okay. And
Nice.
Space and being able to separate has been huge. So,
yeah. Do you like Indian food?
I love Indian food.
Do you know what gulab jamun is? They're milk solids. It's milk that's boiled down, and then they deep fry it, and then when it's super hot, they drop it into a sugar syrup that's just cloying. It's, I don't know, a huge amount of sugar. And you see them, they're in a jar in the restaurant, usually a bowl, and they float. Well, Munindra, my teacher Munindraji, Anagarika Munindra, told a story of himself, that he was on retreat and he was a young monk, and he was the person in charge of taking care of the Mahabodhi temple in Bodh Gaya. Before, now it's an international destination, but it was falling to ruin, and there was no money in the 30s, maybe. I guess in the 30s. Anyway, he was in charge, and there was no money, and he was very, very hungry, and he had a difficult relationship with food, even when I knew him. He came to stay with us in California, and he'd never been to America before, and we took him to Kentucky Fried Chicken at his request. And it was embarrassing because he was like a wolf among the chicken wings and whatever there was. And oh dear, why am I saying this? Oh yeah, he said that he was doing a long retreat, and he wanted gulab jamun. He so wanted gulab jamun, and his teacher suggested, this is the same practice of prescribe the symptom. His teacher suggested go into the village and have as many as you want. And he said I ate something like 17, and then then he said, and I never ate another one again. but but it's to surmount the fear in a way, and the aversion, and to do it, but do it with the lights on, really clear headed. It was quite something to be with Manindra in the world, because we went for a walk one morning, and there was a drunk on a park bench, and the kind of person that one, generally you just let them be, and he went over and woke the guy up and sat on the seat with him and offered him a dharma talk. Which was in a certain way quite unskillful, but he was so unafraid. It was really something. And what he saw was not a drunk on the park bench, but a human being who was worthy of paying attention to. Where are we at? 8:15. Maybe time for another comment or question.
Hi, Robert. This is Aaron.
Hi, Aaron. I think, oh, there you are. Hi.
How's it going?
Not bad at the moment.
Good. I wanted to say I really appreciate this discussion of different strategies and how different strategies can be really helpful for different people. I'm not. I know that for myself that if I had more of a discipline, that I could probably move through the world with a lot more skill. So that being said, in coming to these morning practices, it sort of came through an awareness, and then the first sits, I would just put it on Facebook, and I would just set it next to me on my pillow, and I would just allow myself to just bring in the nourishments of this kind of practice, and I didn't make myself get up. And before long, I found myself actually wanting to get up, which for me in the morning, it's a pretty rare thing.
Hmm.
I don't know, I've got a lot of just, causes and condition, nourishment, I'm getting up super early to work at Starbucks, going in for, you know, getting a 25-cent raise after half a year of full-time work. I have a lot of reasons why, maybe why I shun, you know,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing where to put my discipline in ways that are actually going to be helpful, right? But at any rate, I really appreciate the variety of strategies offered and how some may work and some may not. If I took a vow to get up every morning, I don't know. It's I don't know if it would backfire or not.
You might have to completely not get up just to fight back against that. You never know.
Yeah.
So that might be something to try. Say for the next 2 weeks, I'll do it every day and see if you can even. But then not to think of it as a failure if you don't, but to realize, oh, I'm learning something about my personality, my self structure.
And perhaps how to best work with that, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you. There was a Pema thing as well about the itch that I thought was really kind of cool. She compared this wanting to scratch. This is Pema Chodron, and it's in her Getting Unstuck audio CD series, and she described the want to scratch, right? She uses the scabies analogy, where if you scratch it, it makes it much worse, and the only path through is to not scratch.
Mm.
And one of the practice suggestions she said was, if feel like you have to scratch, you could say, okay, I'll allow myself to scratch after 10 complete breaths.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I thought that was kind of, so if somebody wants to try a smaller valve, maybe that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
And you may discover at the end of 10 breaths you don't want to scratch anymore. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Maybe one more person and then I got to go.
Hey, Robert, it's Russell.
Russell, hello.
Good morning. I think this has been an absolutely wonderful discussion. And in a sense, isn't the goal of where, I'm not sure if goal's the right word, but isn't one of the outcomes that we move it, I think of that tapestry of yours, that we are able to move more and more into that Buddha behind the Buddha, behind the Buddha, the observing. And in that place, there is a little urge to move. There's observation, at least in the very rare times when I seem to be fully in that. Everything is just passing. The itch, the noise, my little dog coming through, my own thoughts, they all just, they're like smoke. And I'm a solid presence as it all just passes by, and it's quite extraordinary when it happens.
Well put. I wonder, have you ever read I Am That?
No.
It's by a fellow, it's about a fellow called Nisargadatta Maharaj. It's spelled just like it sounds.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, and Ruth Dennison spent some time with him, as did Jack Cornfield. Ruth spent some months with him in Mumbai. He was a cigarette salesman who became fully awakened, they say. And people came from all over the world to be with him. And that book that's an amazing book from a person who is ostensibly fully awakened. And you can also, there's videotapes of him on YouTube. Anyway, one line I remembered often from the book is someone asked him about emotions. And he said, well, of course I get irritated when my dinner is late. But it's as though it's all happening very far away.
Yeah.
So there's still the personality, but it's lost its 3D Technicolor solidity, and it's like, oh, it's this now. It's this now. Yeah. Which means, of course, we don't have to act on nearly so much. We can let it come and go. Thank you. Nice to see you this morning.
Thank you.
Gallery. All right. Time to go, unless there's someone with something that is needing to be said now. Well, let's sing our little cacophonous song. And think of the meaning of it, right? May all beings, what do we really mean? Lighting up those synapses that have to do with love and being in relationship with all beings. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Come on, kids. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Yay. Have a lovely mindful day, dear friends. I look forward to being with you tomorrow.
Be well, be well, be well, everyone. Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Have a great day, all.
Ah. Goodbye, dear friends, Lauren and Francine and Marla and James and Lorraine and Jen. Back at you. May this be a day of ease, relatively, anyway. Take care. Boom. Goodbye, Facebook friends. I think this worked pretty admirably this morning. Want to hear the sound? Huh. Huh. All right. Have a lovely day.